started a new series of atmospheric nighttime videos. It's just that I've been busy the last 2 days and I didn't have a chance till now. So I hope you're all keeping well, and welcome everybody to the first video of 2002, 22, and we're still here. What we had, we held. And just to show you, how much fortitude we have compared to the average person. There's a forest walk, a very beautiful forest walk where I live, that's run by the local council. And yesterday, I go for walks there all the time, but yesterday the car park outside it was absolutely packed, and the forest walk itself was absolutely packed. New Year's Day, okay? And it was all full of people who did the whole thing, New Year, new me, this kind of thing, Going to get, they spent the days after Christmas saying, oh, I can't eat, oh, I can't eat and drink like this anymore. I can't smoke like this anymore. Oh, Jesus, I have to get myself together. So they ordered things like, the exercise bikes and gym equipment off Amazon. And they say, no, New Year's Day, new year, new me. And they go down yesterday in their droves, and just like I knew that would happen, they weren't there. They just didn't come back. They got home after their New Year, new me bullshit, in front of the television and went, Jerry's a fancy a pizza. Will you go order a pizza? He says, Sinead, bring us a couple of cans of Budweiser from the garage. And that's what they're like. That's what they're like. And these are the people we were expecting to stand up and help the tribes and stuff fight oppression of the last 23 months. That's what they're like. They're not. It's not too weak. The 2 weeks to flatten the curve. It's too weak to do anything. Remember, I've always said over the years, there's nothing more despicable, treacherous, and backstabbing than a weak, frightened little man. And that's what didn't we? Look how many weak, frightened little men we're surrounded by. And so you can't be dependent on them. And I just like normies. Fuck 'em. They'll never change. But yeah, here we are. We're still here. And I had a dream last night. I want to put this on record. That's why I put it in the title of the video. Very interesting dream. And I kept dreaming about a yellow square. Just a yellow square. And I was being told in the dream that the yellow square had evil connected to it and demonic energies connected to it, and especially jinn-like energies. Yellow square. And anytime I looked at the yellow square, it said, beware, pay attention, there's evil afoot. And as a square now, it was specifically a square, and how I know it was a square, at the end of the dream, there was a yellow flag. You know the way a flag is like longer than it is taller, in that proportion. And what happened was that yellow cloth flag folded in half horizontally and then folded in thirds or whatever, thirds vertically, and formed the flag into a yellow square of fabric. So it said, the dream was saying, beware, pay attention to the yellow square. So this morning I googled it and found absolutely nothing. There's a yellow square hotel in Rome, and that was the only thing I could find. Everything else wasn't really meaning anything. And so that's a good one, because there's so little reference out there to yellow squares. Now, in Irish context, all the Rona signs, all the signs about washing your hands, wear a mask, keep your distance, they're all yellow, but they're all triangles, so it's not squares. So maybe it means the end of them, They're certainly gone from just about everywhere, except a few businesses that still have them up. You just don't see those signs anymore. And so maybe it means an end of that. But keep an eye on, remember that from this video, the yellow square. But, so yeah, they were too weak to do anything, not 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And I saw this disgusting thing today, actually. Now, this is gaslighting and don't buy into it. The New York Post had a story that, wait to hear this one, that they're allocating COVID treatments according to race in New York City. And doctors who said, this is unprecedented, I've never been asked the race of a patient before. But according to the bureaucrats who are remember I told you that bureaucrats and civil servants are the enemy of the human race in every country. Bureaucrats and civil servants in New York City have this, and they're all lefties as well, liberals, have decided that COVID treatments should be allocated according to race. So not even now, but what they're doing is they're doing it for two reasons. What turns out that they were saying things like, because of historical social injustice, minorities have never had the same access to healthcare, and therefore these minorities should be forced to the COVID treatments. Now, they're doing this for two reasons. One, it's part of a lefty agenda that exists, a liberal agenda to cause divide and conquer, just division and everything else. And secondly, it's to cause trouble and to cause problems for people and to create strife and anger among races. Now, this is the agenda here. You see, as the COVID thing is ending, and the emergency of the pandemic is ending, bureaucrats, civil servants, politicians, and media, they have to continue to justify their existence, and how they do that is generally through things like racism. Christian Morris has made some fantastic videos all about the race quangos and all the different vested interests in Ireland who exist by drumming up trouble between white and black people and other people of other races and stuff like that. They exist, and between people with different lifestyles and transgenders and stuff like that. They exist for no other reason than to cause trouble, because once there's a trouble, even if it's imaginary, it continues their cash flow from the. So you see, these NGOs are that's another part. Yesterday the other day I spoke about the corporate scams and the shakedown rackets. This is another shakedown racket. Another part of the criminal cartel is to create division in society where there is none, so they can feed these monsters. Now, this is to cause this is two, and the other reason for this one is they'll have like the sort of like the whites in New York who are the white working class going, oh, I won't get my medicine, I'll die now because I haven't got my latest booster. It's also to create a sense of, it's the whole thing of like, it creates an urgency about the thing that if I don't get it, I'll die. And also, there's a vested interest in playing working class whites and working class black people and Hispanics off against each other in New York, so they'd have like well, there's like if you go to a place like Bensonhurst and not Howard Beach and other Italian parts of New York, there tend to be very racist areas for some reason. I don't know why. And that fella's there going, the blacks are taking me, are going to take my medicine, they're going to kill my family because they're giving them the COVID first. It's all start trouble. Now, the thing is, there is traditionally, it is true that there are multi-generational legacies of oppression. That's absolutely true. I mean, all you have to do is look at like people who were very rich 150 years ago, who are the aristocracy. Well, none of them are poor today. You see, the legacy continues on no matter what. Where, say, like, so I totally have no issue in America with things like black people getting college places, allocated college percentage places, or, things like affirmative action. That doesn't bother me at all, because, it was only 50 years ago, 60 years ago, that you had Jim Crow laws through huge parts of the southern states of the United States, huge geographic and populated areas, and those people couldn't get to college. A lot of them couldn't even get proper decent anything, jobs in the government. They were all a lot of the city jobs are wrapped up by like mafia, Irish mafia, Italian mafia, Jewish mafia, or Southern gang mafia, and there's definitely was a legacy of lack of heritage to these folks. So I've no, it's very difficult. If your if your grandfather couldn't get a job working in the sanitation in the city because he was black, he's not going to be able to save for a house. And therefore, he's not going to develop, wealth to continue on to his children and grandchildren. And the Democratic Party, although they claim to have rescued black people from Jim Crow, what they did was they put them in welfare plantations in America instead. Not all, by the way. The vast majority of black people in America don't live in the ghetto. They live good middle-class lives, and they're generating wealth in their own suburbs for their own families and stuff like that. So I don't have a problem with that because it wasn't that long ago those people were definitely, it's the same in Northern Ireland. Catholics were just like second class citizens, and no matter that's just a fact of it. And they need a leg up in certain places because they were again avoided. They were not allowed certain jobs and they couldn't build up wealth. And that's these things like affirmative action have no problem with them addressing these imbalances from historical legacies. The problem is for bureaucrats, and they're generally white, they become a cash cow. So they've developed into things like you look at like BLM, Black Lives Matter. The people pushing that are not working class black people anywhere in Ireland or anywhere. They're rich whites, and because these are people whose families had the slaves, so that had they're the ones who made. If you go to America, it's all people who run BLM. Their families all had plantations in the South. They're all rich whites. Then they're trying to pass that burden on to working class white people. They're just as disgusting as their ancestors were. If you go to England, it's BLM are all people who had, Grandpapa Quinton was in the Transvaal in the colonies, living off black people, and their families all were slave owners and stuff, are involved in a slave merchant thing, and then they're all tearing down statues and again trying to blame it on working class white people who had nothing, and the same in Ireland. The ones who are all BLM here are all rich fuckers. Out to make out to line their own pockets through their quangos and stuff. That's despicable beyond words. But this is the legacy of weak men. This is the legacy of a weak society. That once you develop a victim complex, it's very difficult to escape that victim complex. Very difficult indeed. And it becomes an intergenerational victim complex of heritage, especially if you somehow are able to survive well through it. As as any illusions you have or delusions you have of victim complex fade away, the more likely you are to believe you're oppressed. So therefore, this is why you have wealthy white women in the West who think, have had everything handed them on the plate. They have the college degrees, they have good jobs, everything they want, and they still think that like a working class guy who works down the sewers has oppressed them. So you have to nip it in the bud. And that's when it brings us to us in the tribe. Now, this is a lecture in a kind of a tough love kind of way. Far too many of you spend all day long obsessing over the latest Rona thing. It's not good. It's not healthy. You get the information and then you get out. If you can, laugh and satirize it. But you can't be sitting there every day looking at this and going, oh, Jesus, did you see the latest? No. Oh, did you see what they're doing now? That's putting us into a victim complex. We are above that. We are the tribe. We are not weak men who hide behind the sofa, going, oh, please save me, government. Oh, please save me, mass media. So we all happy, and we've all done it. I'm not going to I'm not going to say I didn't do it. We've all been guilty of for some point in time of doing it, of allowing the other side to wash its negativity over us. And we have to be very careful how we handle and process this information. So if you do believe in New Year's resolution bullshit, here's a very easy one you can make. I'm not going to obsess over what the mass media is telling me anymore. I'm not going to be obsessed with the alt media anymore. In fact, the alt media is actually worse at creating post-traumatic stress for our people, our tribes, than the mainstream media, because it has. I mean, look, if I make a positive video, there'll be hundreds of comments of people who've come from other people's alt media channels saying, "Oh, they're going to put the microchip in our heads soon." Like it's always negative, 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 negative. You must grab the positive, because the positive is there's lots of positive. We're still here. That's one of the positives. Yesterday it wasn't a positive for the people who are suffering, but yesterday on Facebook, the WHO put out an ad saying, "Oh, you might get mild symptoms from the needlecraft," and there were 8,500 responses, and and people saying, "Hold on a second, this is bullshit. My mother died, my friend," and it goes on and on and on. And that thread would go a long way to people who are on the fence going, there has to be something that these people are wary of taking this COVID shots. There has to be something to it, and that's a huge win. Don't be, You know, I said we've already won. It's only the manner of their exit that remains to be worked out. But we've already won because we've lasted this long, and they've, like all psychopaths, they've rolled their dice one too many. And you know, for the WHO to put that out yesterday, well, you know, you know, it's only people who are so the most middle class soy boy psychotic delusional types, the ones who have Brian Cox. It's in dark. Let me see you Brian Cox's smile in the dark. The only the only people who can do Brian Cox's, the only people who think Brian Cox is cool are the only ones who still fall for government bullshit. And so don't be all negative about it. Don't be all, you know, oh, they're coming to get us every 5 minutes. Oh, what are we going to do next? Oh, a lot of the things that were lasting. This is a war of attrition. Remember, they came after us, and we're fighting a guerrilla war of the mind, a guerrilla war of memes, a guerrilla war of satires, a guerrilla war of videos like this. We are the underground. We are fighting a war of the consciousness, and we're winning it. We're grinding them down bit by bit. You know, the people who said it's going to be a great awakening and they'll all be running up one day going, hallelujah, you were right. That's never going to happen. That's a Christian mindset. But remember that. We are fighting an underground war of knowledge, information, satire, and bardic tactics. And we're winning. The meme wars alone are tremendous. I mean, we're winning. Slowly, surely, we're winning. And they came to us, and we fought back. We could never fight back with what they had, but we fought back with what we have. And we did it. So, but the important thing is not to get bogged down the negativity. So I still get messages from people saying things like, oh, I can't deal with this anymore. Why? Because I read this in the paper. Then don't read the paper. Oh, I can't. I'm on the point of breaking. I'm on the point I can't handle it anymore because I heard this on the radio on the mainstream news. Then don't watch that. Oh, I can't take it anymore. I'm really losing it. I heard something on alt media about we're all going to have microchips put into our heads tomorrow. Then don't have anything to do with that alternative person. Ignorance is bliss in these cases sometimes. We've got enough information. Look, we already know what the game plan is now. And we already know what the game plan is now. And they're trying to, and they've lost. And things like what they're doing in New York, making it a race issue, is part of the bureaucracy, the criminal cartel, the civil servants in, you know, shakedown merchants and racketeers, trying to justify this for a bit longer. And if they can bring race baiting into it, they will love that. It was great. Well, they've started from the start. Farage, you know, anyone who gets vexed is a Farage, you know, Farage. No, this is bureaucracy and civil servants have to, and Quang goes, they justify their existence by creating problems that were never there, and then pretending to be solving the problems. And they pretend to solve the problems by creating more problems. That's why it's a despicable thing being a civil servant. Or, you know, if your children want to be in the civil service, you should look at them and say, geez, what kind of child did I raise? Sanguine says, take care of yourselves.